Hello and welcome to our first office hours for media law. I really hope you've enjoyed Module 1 and are starting to get into the routine of the course. Remember, you start with the mini lectures and then review the learning problem just to get a glimpse of it. Then do your chapter readings, listen to the full lectures, and then start to engage further with the learning problem and the extra activities, including the study guide questions and engaging in the discussion board, talking about the learning problem issues. I hope you've all had a chance to have a really good read of the assessment requirements. And something some people seem to be missing is within the assessment section there is a grid which itemises the assessment items. And the name of that item in that grid is a hyperlink to further descriptions about it, but it also has the rubric or the mark sheet there. So ensure you've gone there and had a really good read, and then if you still don't understand, then ask one of us. Your go-to person for questions about the learning content is for the on-campus and online students, Susan Grantham, who is the head tutor, and for the OUA students, Associate Professor Roger Patching. Of course, I'm happy to field questions, but if you can work through them for the very routine questions, I'd appreciate that. Now, the learning problem itself has raised a lot of questions and discussion on the discussion board. Now, of course, this is just your first learning problem that you're doing, and it's introductory. So most of the material you need for it, or at least the background material, is sitting there in the first 3 chapters of the textbook. Of course, the topic itself is to do with someone's dismissal from a public service position for their misuse of social media. Now, that topic does have a body of law around it. It's the law of unfair dismissal, which works through the Fair Work Commission. And so if you go to those cases, you'll see a description of that law, particularly if you go on to the Ostly website and search for social media and unfair dismissal, and you'll find recent cases that talk about that, and you'll find some cases that refer to this kind of situation. So all of that's good if you find that and mention it. But of course there are other topic areas that arise in the first 3 chapters that have relevance to the learning problem. There is the issue of the constitutional freedom to communicate on matters of politics and government and whether that would apply. And we also have other questions to do with generally free expression, and whether someone has free expression using social media when they're writing about something to do with their workplace. We also have covered in those chapters the different court structures and how appeal mechanisms work and so on. And it could be that some of the learning problem relates to perhaps the different levels of government. Which public service does the person work in? Is it a state or a Commonwealth level of government? And we also need to be aware of this whole area of mindful practice and what it means to work mindfully and to try to be mindful of legal and ethical issues as they arise in the workplace if we have that kind of job. So there's lots you can discuss. These learning problems aren't meant to be a straitjacket for you. Your tutors are not going to punish you in the marking if you've chosen to explain why you are interpreting the question slightly differently. For example, with this first one, the question is, who are you actually giving advice to? Are you giving advice to the person that's made the error with their social media behaviour? Well, we can give some allowance there. It could be that you decide to say in your answer that you've decided to interpret it so you're giving advice to people who might be going into this sort of position, or advice to her if she's ever getting another job in the area, or perhaps advice to journalists or PR people from this case, some lessons from this case, advice to them as to how they might conduct themselves in the workplace with their social media use. So there's a lot of scope there. We don't require super amount of detail in your answers, but nevertheless, of course, they all need to be fully referenced, and you do only have the 600 words available to you for each one of these. So, you can take a number of angles on it and still do very well, regardless of which angle you take. The other thing is, don't forget to engage with the end of chapter or end of module section questions in the study guide. And we've set up a separate discussion board area for discussion of the study guide questions as well. And this can deepen your learning, and it's the sort of thing we do discuss in tutorials. So on-campus students are more than welcome to participate, but it really is something that's pretty much compulsory for online students, just so you get the best interaction and engagement with your understanding of the topic areas. So if you're not enjoying media law, it's time you started. It shouldn't be too threatening a course. If you are enjoying it, please go ahead, keep enjoying the ride, and we look forward to your comments and engagement with Module 2. Bye for now.